Hello, and welcome back to our channel Manga Recap. Today, we are going to do a recap of the anime series called Choyoyu, or High School Prodigies Have It Easy Even in Another World. It is about 7 super smart high school students who survive a plane crash only to find themselves in another world with magic called Freyjagard. In this world, 2 human races live side by side: the Byuma, who possess animal features and formidable strength, and the Hyuma, who possess limited magical aptitude. In the beginning, we see 2 females who are not human. One has bunny ears and the other is an elf, and a aeroplane passes above their heads and crashes. 7 high schoolers who are prodigies in their fields were in the plane that crashed. The members are Tsukasa Mikagami, a politician and Prime Minister of Japan; genius inventor Ringo Ohashi; ninja journalist Shinobu Sarutobi; medical doctor Kin Kanzaki; samurai swordswoman Ai Ichijo; magician Prince Akatsuki; and businessman Masato Sanada. They all were in the same plane coincidentally. The prodigies are rescued and treated by the women shown at the beginning of the episode of Byuma, named Winona and her elven daughter Lirule. Next, we see all the people having a party to celebrate the prodigies' recovery. They learn about the Byuma and Hyuma, and of the legend about 7 heroes from another world who saved the continent from an evil dragon. Believing there might be a connection, Tsukasa instructs his friends to learn more about the Freyjagard Empire and its culture so they might find a way to get back home and help improve Elm Village's welfare using their advanced knowledge and skills to repay them. Tsukasa even introduces the villagers to mayonnaise, and they seem to like it. When soldiers of a local feudal lord try to extort Elm villagers for food and wine, the prodigies defeat and scare them into leaving the villagers alone and never telling their lord about the incident. Despite this, the prodigies continue their plan while they help in their own way, each using their skill. Masato, an eldest son of Wyana, run into trouble acquiring money and supplies for Elm Village when they discover the new Cheland Company has a virtual monopoly on the flow of commerce throughout Dormont. While the rest of the high schoolers do various odd jobs in the village, Shinobu uses her skills to dig up scandalous information on the mayor of Dormont, allowing Masato to acquire a permit to trade under the name Elm Trading Company. After taking in a homeless girl named Drew, Masato and Elch visit some local merchants and offer to help them sell their wares in Dormont through a consignment shop, where they'd undercut New Cheland by charging less and only taking 10% of the profits from each sale, as long as the merchants stock and man the stores themselves. Masato's shop quickly becomes popular, selling everything from rugs to Tsukasa's homemade mayonnaise, and sending money and supplies to Elm Village. New Cheland dismisses the Elm Trading Company as a nuisance at first, but when the Sea Serpent Maritime Merchant Company begins trading with Masato, New Cheland decides to take the threat seriously, setting up a rival store to undercut Elm's prices and drive them out of business. Masato shows Elch several Byuma standing outside, hinting that they are part of his plan to destroy New Cheland for good. New Cheland's attempt to destroy Elm Trading Company backfires as the merchants they fired to save money ends up boycotting New Cheland and signing a contract with Masato to supply Elm Trading Company instead. The New Cheland Company admits defeat and makes a deal with Masato over sharing trading rights in Findolf. Slave traders attempt to capture Bakru only for Masato to buy her freedom after the young girl promises Masato she will become a great merchant to free her parents from slavery. Masato and his companions return to Elm Village only for them and the rest of the villagers to get arrested by soldiers of Maraki Findolf led by his knight, Inzaghi. Inzaghi falsely charges the villagers with treason. Inzaghi orders the villagers to be burned inside their homes as punishment, but Akatsuki manages to free the villagers before Tsukasa and the others arrive, where they learn Inzaghi has kidnapped Lirule. Lirule is kidnapped by Inzaghi and is forced to become Maraki Findolf's concubine in exchange for the lives of Elm Village, but mysterious magic protects her when Findolf tries to kiss her. Meanwhile, Tsukasa and the Prodigies help the Elm Villagers rescue Lirul and start a revolution to overthrow the Freyjagard Empire and make it into an advanced, modern democratic nation where everyone is equal and has rights. Thanks to Ringo's rail cannon, metal arrows, and Durluman shields, the Prodigies and Elm Villagers are able to storm into Findolf's castle and fight his soldiers easily, while Shinobu and Tsukasa sneak in to rescue Lirul. While Shinobu holds off Inzaghi, Tsukasa enters Findolf's room where Lirul is but is shot by Findolf's flintlock pistol. However, Tsukasa survives unhurt thanks to his suit being made of bulletproof fibers, and taking out his own handgun and shooting him with a rubber bullet instead. A mysterious being later uses Lirul's body to tell Tsukasa and the Prodigies they must save the continent before disappearing. As everyone celebrates rescuing Lirul and defeating Findolf's army, Tsukasa plans his next task of forming an independent nation. The Prodigies start a religion called the Seven Light Faith, with Akatsuki as the god and the rest of the Prodigies as his angels in order to easily convince the people to accept them and their new nation. Using Akatsuki's magic tricks and free gifts of mayonnaise, they are able to convince the people of Dormont to switch their allegiance from the Empire to the Seven Light Faith. Tsukasa later makes a deal with the mayor of Dormont, Walter von Hazerad, to peacefully have the city defect to the Seven Light Faith with his position intact, and talks with Zes du Bernard, the former captain of the Dormont Watch, to become the leader of the newly formed Seven Light Knight Order. After convincing Bernard that his daughter's future in their new nation is worth fighting against the Empire. Meanwhile, Shinobu and Elch travel to Buchwald where they learn the Empire is sending an army to reclaim Findolf from the Prodigies led by Duke Gustav, a war hero and a notorious control freak. At his castle, Gustav kills Inzaghi for running away rather than fighting the rebels and vows to burn them. As Tsukasa implements his political reforms and modernizes the livelihoods of the people, with the Empire planning to attack Findolf in the spring, Tsukasa modernizes the Seven Lights army by having Ringo build a power plant and a factory to mass-produce guns in order to prepare for the upcoming invasion. Elsewhere, Rue is having a hard time learning multiplication, but with help from the other Prodigies, she manages to figure it out. Meanwhile, Shinobu and Elch stay at an inn run by Emerauda and her daughter Melinda at Kokanino village in Gustav's lands. Despite the villagers proclaiming how great their village is, Shinobu soon discovers Kokanino's dark secret that they are cannibals who eat travelers. Elch confronts Emerauda over the dead travelers, which Emerauda apologizes and explains that Kokanino was once a farming village, but when Duke Gustav took over he implemented strict rules like making town beautiful by using their own money and always keep their clothes clean. This means they could not farm and were forced to cannibalism. When Duke Gustav's soldiers punish Melinda for having dirt on her clothes during an inspection, Shinobu gives herself up to their leader, Silver Knight Jean du Leblanc, in exchange for sparing Melinda after learning the girl tried to warn them. Meanwhile, Jean frees Shinobu and reveals that she is actually a member of the Azure Brigade, who opposes Duke Gustav's tyranny and asks for her help. Elsewhere, Duke Gustav plans to attack by using his magic spear, Heaven's Flames, to destroy Dormont. Tsukasa and Ringo learn about the attack and use the many anti-aircraft missiles to redirect the spear into the ocean but fail, and the spear hits Dormont. The spear hits Dormont's noble district and starts a fire. Despite managing to evacuate the people and preventing the fire from spreading, Duke Gustav summons fire spirits from his spear to kill the people of Dormont and spread the fire further. Lirul reveals to the Prodigies the being that possessed her has told her they need to destroy the spear to stop Heaven's Flames from spreading. Using Ringo's last missile they destroy the spear and stop Heaven's Flames, which is felt by Duke Gustav, who vows revenge on the rebels. As the Prodigies help the people of Dormont, Lirul reveals the being that possessed her also gave her knowledge of magic and the ability to speak with spirits, so she wants to learn how to use magic to help. Thanks to information by Shinobu that Duke Gustav won't be able to use another Heaven's Flames for some time and working with the Azure Brigade, Tsukasa orders a surprise attack on Gustav's army led by Zest and 50 soldiers armed with winter gear and semi-automatic rifles. Gustav orders Marquis Arclide and Marquis Butchwold and their forces to invade Findolf now despite their protests. Arclide and Butchwold's forces are forced to retreat after being driven back by Zest's forces thanks to their advanced gear before both Marquis surrender to the Seven Light Faith. At the same time, the Azure Brigade attacks Duke Gustav at his castle. Jean and Shinobu confronts Gustav and orders him to surrender, but he refuses, leading to a fight. They defeat Gustav but not before the Duke blows himself with his magic, seemingly killing himself. After the Seven Light Faith and Azure Brigade take over Gustav's lands and restore order, Tsukasa comes to the conclusion that the Azure Brigade is hiding something from the Prodigies and aren't to be trusted, especially their new leader, Count Conrad. Before they can move forward with their plans, Shinobu discovers Conrad is planning to have the Azure Brigade rejoin the Freyjagard Empire. Elsewhere, a septicemia epidemic has spread amongst the commoners, which Keen attempts to cure despite suffering a penicillin shortage due to Ringo's newest project. However, Count Sarentius of the Medical Guild demands Keen allows his guild to sell opium to the sick, but Keen refuses. Keen, with the help of Lirul's magic, turns the coal into sulfonamide, making enough to cure all of the patients. Count Sarentius attempts to poison the sulfonamide to ruin the Seven Light Faith reputation, but is stopped by Keen. Meanwhile, Ringo finally finishes her latest work, an ICBM. At the Empire, General Noro allows Conrad and the Azure Brigade to rejoin the Empire, but wants them to destroy the Seven Light Faith and provide them with an army and a mysterious mage named Tanganyika. Elsewhere, Conrad's knight Racenach and his men attempt to kill Jean, but she is saved by Shinobu, who then kills the assassins. Jean and Shinobu discover Gustav's golden statue in Conrad's castle, and Conrad returns with Tanganyika. Tanganyika is revealed to be Gustav in disguise. He then turns his attention to Jean and Shinobu and attacks them. They escape, but not before Gustav destroys the castle. As he marvels at his new powers, Gustav is suddenly blown up by Ringo's newly built ballistic missile. The next day, Tsukasa reveals that they are now one nation, known as the Elm Republic. Gustav appears, who transforms into a demon and attacks them. Gustav leaps toward Tsukasa, who pulls out a handgun and destroys the gem. As he dies, Gustav warns Tsukasa of the trials ahead of him and boasts that the Prodigies will never succeed. Elsewhere, a trio from the Yamato Empire and General Noro observe the events in Dormont, with the latter proposing that the Seven Light Faith may be an obstacle for him. Prodigies have developed a biodegradable container to sell mayonnaise, and rejoice the defeat of Gustav and the birth of the Elm Republic with the townsfolk. And that's all for today, guys. If you liked the recap and want more recaps like this, consider subscribing to our channel.